So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create the grid sheets. So with the grid sheets, what we want to be able to do is we want to create a grid pattern or an array of sheets to encompass the entire project. So we have our overall sheets, but we want to create a grid sheet setup. So what we're going to do, again, just like we did before, we're going to right click on pulse and bypass. We're going to create a sheet set. We're going to give it a name. We'll just call it grid sheets for now. The type of sheet will be plan grid, and the paper size will be portrait, landscape, and we need to create a Dynaview collection. So we could have created the Dynaview collection first, but we can also do it here within this process. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create a new Dynaview. The name will be, we'll call it grid views. The width on the paper is, we want to fit that within our border, so we're going to set that to a 32 with a 22-inch height. The plot scale that we're looking for is 100. Now the columns, we're going to kind of take a best guess, and let's say that we've got 9 columns and 5 rows. We want the overlap for each one to be 1 inch. That's fine. We can go ahead and put this on plot view, and then we're going to pick our first sheet origin. So this kind of gives us an idea of what our site looks like. So we know that, you know, we've got 10 columns. Looks like 10 columns is probably too much. So what we need to do is let's kick that back down to 9. And then for the rows, we go back to origin over here. We know that we're going to need more rows. So let's change the rows to 10. And we'll go back to our sheet origin, and we can see that 10 actually works for us and encompasses the entire site or the overall site. So we're just going to orient where we want it. We're going to place it here, right about in here. It puts in our coordinate, and then the rotation angle, we can rotate it if we want, but we want these to be horizontal, so we're going to keep that the way it is, and we'll click apply. Then we'll close this. And now we've got the Dynaview grid view collection that we just created. For the grid settings, we're going to leave as none. We're going to come back and work with those later. And then for the view filter, for the views, we're going to select my filter. Once we have all that, actually for the orientation or the offset, let's change this offset. Let's make it so that it fits at a 1.5, comma 0.75. So it's just a little bit inside the lower left corner of our sheet, and we'll click OK to that. Now over here we've got another drop down where we've got all our grid views. So if I pick on one here, let's go down to, let's say, sheet 25, do a new view sheet, and take a look at what we've put together. We kind of picked one that doesn't have a lot of information in it, but you can see where that view is set up. So let's go ahead and just pick another one here. So maybe we can see a little bit more information in our project. So this has some information. Again, we can go in and we can put labels back under plan view. We can label the information, take a look at what's there, add a scale bar accordingly, you know, on each sheet. So depending on how you want this set up, we could add the scale bar again at the top level so that it replicates all the way through the project. Again, a lot of different things that you can do. What we want to do next is actually create the grid pattern. We want to see this grid sheet. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over to the grid sheets, right click, and we're going to go to the grid style manager. In the grid style manager, we need to create a new grid style. So we're going to click new. It's going to give us a name. So let's go ahead and change this name to northing and easting, because this is the grid that we're looking to create. Our interval will be left the way it is, and 1 inch, and then our major interval is at 4 inches. If we expand the grid styles down, we can select grid, and under grid we can display or control how we want this to be displayed. We're actually going to turn off the grid. We don't want to draw the grid. We do want to go to the labels though, and we're going to add E in front of the easting and an N in front of the northing. So what's in the brackets there is what's the code that's going to be used for the label. So that's like our smart text. We can adjust the size. So instead of agency, let's go ahead and set that to Arial 0.1 for both. For the offset, we want that to be 0.25 for comma 0, and then 0.25 comma 0 for both. We can put the text on our title block text layer, or we could create another layer for this if we wanted to, but we're going to set that. Then under text, we are going to draw those. We want the tick marks to be drawn. We don't need to change anything else here except set the layer. So we want to put those on the proper layer. Let's put those on text and text. And then we'll click close. So what we've done is we've created a grid style. Now we need to assign that grid style to our grid sheet. So we're going to right click on grid sheets, go to properties, and under grid settings, we want that to be the northern and eastern grid set that we just created. So we'll click close. Now when we hit refresh all, you can see nothing happens. What we want to do is come over here and just tell it to build the sheets. So it's going to go through and it's going to rebuild the sheets. It's going to take us back to the top sheet for pulse and bypass. And what we can do now is we can pull this down and we can scroll down to our grid sheets. And if we pick a grid sheet like 14, you will see now that it has the northing and the eastings. Okay, now this one's blank, and that's because if we go back to our plan view, we've got some that are blank in here. Now what you can do, and this is a tip or more of a trick, is after you set up the initial grid, if you go through and you delete these Dynaviews, so if I come in here and through here and we delete these guys because we know that, hey, we're not using those, and I can get rid of these over here. Maybe we're not too concerned about this area. I can delete these guys over here. I don't need these guys down here, let's say. So if I go through and I delete them, you'll notice that over here we get a little red flag. So if I right click and say build sheets again, it's only going to rebuild the sheets and renumber everything based on the Dynaviews that I actually have in my drawing. So it's reduced the number of sheets based on the ones that I've created or got rid of or deleted. So again, you want to set up the full grid, and then you can go through and you can delete the ones you don't want. You can set a rotation to this grid pattern as well. So a lot of different things you can do with this, but those are the grid sheets. So now we've got our cover sheet and other detailed information. We've got our plan and profile, we've got our grid sheets, and we've got our cross-section sheets. Now if we want to put these in a different order, we can right click on the sheet set itself. So if we right click on right away acquisitions and go to properties, you'll see that the sort rank is 0. So if we pick on, let's say we want grid sheets to be next, we're going to set that rank to be 1. And then we'll go with the plan and profile sheets. We'll set that to be 2. And then lastly, for the cross-section sheets, we'll set that to be 3. And you can see that it's sorting them over here for us. Now what we can then do, if we want to publish this, is to right-click on the pulse and bypass, hit print plan set, and then we can control what we want to print. We can print everything in either a single sheet, or we can print everything with my filter and come down here and select what sheets we want. So you can see we've got cover, we've got sheets 1 through 3. Basically it's going to create and publish everything into a series of sheets for us, and we can print it out to a PDF. So those are some of the major features of the advanced drafting tools, working through some actual steps, starting at the very beginning, creating a title block, and building out an entire set of plans.